All right, so welcome to the Solar over Louisville workshop. Some quick overview of our agenda today. So my name is Sumetha and I work with Louisville Metro Government. I'm here with Julia Murray from the Louisville Sustainability Council, who's our partner on this campaign. Julie Jones, who represents Solar Energy Solutions, our selected installation company, and Vicki France, who is a participant in the Solar over Louisville program and has graciously offered to be here to share her experience with all of us. So the agenda will just be a quick overview of the program that I will kick us off with. And then Julie will go into a quick Solar 101, which will give you an overview of everything you need to consider before going solar. And then we'll have Vicki share her experience with the program, and then we should have plenty of time to take your questions. So we are going to be recording this session because we want to make it available for people that may not be able to join at the specific time. And for the sake of the recording, to make sure the audio quality is good, we'll keep everyone muted for the duration of this, but please feel free to jump into the chat and ask any questions.
Hear anything?
Can everyone hear me okay?
Well,
Okay, I think someone just needed to be muted there. But yeah, please feel free to use the chat to ask any questions. We will try to answer some in the chat, but we'll also address them on the call. So the Solar over Louisville program is a partnership between Louisville Metro Government's Office of Advanced Planning and Sustainability and the Louisville Sustainability Council. We also want to acknowledge the Kentucky Solar Energy Society because they were the initial ones to kind of kick off this campaign several years ago and has grown into what the campaign is today. And they've been an advisor on this campaign as well. So talking about solar in Kentucky. So we've seen that the future of solar is bright all around the world. We've seen that the prices have been falling, investments have been growing. And this is something that we're not only seeing globally, but in Kentucky as well. We're seeing that there is more and more investment being built in to the solar industry here. So why is there so much interest in solar? One of the main reasons that people are attracted to solar is because of the energy cost savings benefits and the economic benefits. So that involves, solar being the International Energy Administration says that solar is the cheapest source of electricity at this time. Once the equipment is installed, it is basically paid for the duration of its life. In the industry, a lot of this equipment is guaranteed for a minimum of 25 years, but it can typically last much longer than that, and it's largely maintenance free. Another economic benefit of solar is that there is some research that shows that homes that have solar on them tend to sell for higher, even in economic downturns, by about 4%. So apart from all the energy savings and cost benefits, there's also the non-economic benefits that people are attracted to. So one of them is the energy independence aspect of it, especially if you couple your solar system with a battery, then you are able to be energy independent. We also have the supporting local solar jobs and increasing those clean energy jobs in the region. Louisville also has the goal of achieving 100% clean energy community-wide by 2040. So this is definitely a program that helps us achieve that goal. So before we dive into solar, we also want to talk about energy efficiency, because the more you are able to make your home energy efficient, the more you can get out of solar, because you need to produce less solar to meet that demand. We won't go too deep into energy efficiency, but we do have some resources here, and we will be setting that as a follow-up to the email that you registered with. So now talking about the Solar over Louisville program, the whole purpose of this program is to make it really easy for residents to go solar, and small businesses, nonprofits, and other places of worship, smaller institutions. And the way that the program does this is that it allows everyone to band together to go solar together, so that everyone can access a wholesale discounted rate that you wouldn't be able to negotiate one by one with the installer. It also offers the opportunity for the city to pre-screen your home before you go through the process. So we can do a quick review and tell you initially looking at the satellite imagery of your home, whether you're going to be a good fit for solar. If you have, a tree that's shading your roof or the orientation of your roof is wrong, we immediately tell you that this is not going to be a good fit. So you don't have to go through the hassle of going through the whole process. We also connected you with a vetted solar installer so that you can be assured that you're going with a trusted partner, because unfortunately, there are some companies out there these days that are not very well intentioned. And we have heard about companies that are scamming residents and, forcing them into contracts that are really hard to get out of. So the city has gone through the process of making sure that we check the certifications, the track record and the work history and the reviews and everything, and selecting someone who can give you quality service, someone that you can trust. So that's another great benefit of this campaign. So let's talk about eligibility. So this program is not just open to people in Louisville and Jefferson County. It's actually open to a 15-county region that you can see on this map here, including 5 counties in Indiana. It's open to residents as well as small businesses and other small institutions like nonprofits. Basically, think about any building that's comparable to a residential building. So we're not talking about any industrial scale solar, but any smaller type building is definitely welcome to apply. We also have to keep in mind that there's a limited sign-up window. And in fact, our deadline is approaching this weekend on August 14th. So if you're interested in signing up for this campaign, the next step is there's the sign-up form that I will put in the chat. But you just have to, it's just ask for your basic energy usage for the past 12 months, which you can find on your more recent bill. There's an image here on the slide that shows you where at the bottom of the bill, you can see these blue bars that show you the kilowatt hours of energy that you've used in each month. And this information gives the installer a good idea of how much energy your property might need and help them size the system and give you a quote accordingly. We also ask for the age and type of your roof, because if you have a really old roof, we might recommend that you replace that before you get solar panels, so you don't have to deal with the additional cost of having to take the panels off in a couple of years. And then, just keep in mind that deadline. But it's a very simple form. Those are kind of the only 2 things that you're going to need to know beforehand. So talking about the installer selection process, there was a number of criteria that we looked at. We looked at, the pricing that was being offered and whether there was some kind of a reasonable discount that the installer was offering. We looked at whether they were a regionally or locally based company and how many local jobs they were going to support. We looked at their quality of the hardware, their certifications, their work history, and all of these factors helped us choose a really good company. And I'm going to introduce them. They're called Solar Energy Solutions. They have a number of NABCEP certified installers, which is kind of the industry standard for accreditation in this industry. And they are offering a 12 to 19% discount for participants in this campaign. So that 12 to 19 range depends on what system size that you end up getting on your property. And they will be able to kind of talk you through that when you apply for the program. They've also done a number of these types of campaigns in the region as well, and they've all gone really well. So we're very excited to have partnered with them for this campaign. So with that quick introduction, I will, looked like there's some more information I wanted to share. So this program has been going on for almost 6 months, and the Rocky Mountain Institute is a technical advisor for our campaign. And about halfway through the campaign, they helped us do some analysis on where all of our signups and contracts were coming from. And we were really happy to see that this campaign is more equitably distributed than the state average, because typically you find solar only in higher income neighborhoods and predominantly white neighborhoods. But with this campaign, we've been able to present solar as more accessible. And we also have a solar grant program that we've offered for low-income homeowners to apply. Unfortunately, the funds for that program are depleted, so we don't have any funds left for the solar grant program, but we were able to support some low-income homeowners to get free solar on their homes through that. And that's some of our website and social media handles that you can follow just to keep up to date with the campaign and look at some photos of other installs going on in the city and things like that. And with that, I'll pass it on to Julie Jones to get into our Solar 101 presentation.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Julie Jones with Solar Energy Solutions. I have been in solar for around 10 years. And before that, did some work in sort of high efficiency power generation and things like that. Solar Energy Solutions is founded in Kentucky, in Lexington, is our main headquarters. And then our second warehouse is in Louisville, and we have other warehouses and offices around the region. All right, next one. So we've been in business about 16 years. We've done over 2,000 projects, everything from residential to commercial and utility scale. We've worked with some of these entities that you will recognize: the National Guard, University of Louisville, Louisville Metro, University of Kentucky, Bloomington, and many more. We could move on. So we were founded in 2006, so we're 16 years in business. We are a woman-owned business, and we are dedicated to solar and solar plus batteries. So we focus exclusively on that. Like Sumeda mentioned, we have actually more than this. NABCEP certification is sort of the gold standard in solar installation, and we now have 7. And then we're also certified by some of the different brands that we cover, Tesla, SunPower, and things like that. All right. Here's some examples of different types of installations you've probably seen around. Obviously, today we'll talk about sort of home and small commercial, but we've done lots of different types of installations, from regular residential to canopies, solar fields, and everything in between. All right. So I'm going to cover some just system basics. So how solar works, how it brings electricity into your house, and the things that you need to consider when considering solar, and what things to consider about your roof. All right, let's get started. Okay, so this graphic kind of shows you all the different pieces of a solar system. So first we have the array. Those are the solar panels that go on the roof. The sun hits those solar panels and they generate electricity. So the electricity that they generate is direct current, and the electricity that your house uses is alternating current. So that electricity goes down to a piece of equipment called the inverter. The inverter basically changes it from direct current to alternating current. That power then goes into your electric panel. This is the electric panel that has all the fuses or breakers for your home. And then your home uses that power as it needs it. Then the electric loads, like I said, go into your home. Now, any power that is not used by your home in a solar system can also go back out into the grid. This is called net metering. And so once you have solar installed, your utility will swap out the utility electric meter on the outside of your home, usually on the outside, sometimes they're in the garage, with what's called a bidirectional meter. And what's different about that is it counts energy coming in and it counts energy going out. So then once there's energy that's not needed, that will go into the grid, which can be used by homes around you or businesses, close by. All right, those are all the parts. So net metering. So net metering is that the function that I was telling you about, how power can be pulled into the home and sent out of the home. So this is, it looks a little complicated, but it's not as complicated as it looks. This is from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. And so the DG system here, that is your solar system. So you bring, power in from the solar system, it goes to your home, but you can also send that power out. And so, you know, that power going out and then power coming back in, net metering is that you pay the net difference. So this allows you to kind of use the grid as a battery. In Kentucky now, some of the different utilities don't give sort of a one-to-one rate of credit. So in sort of a one-to-one rate of credit, you would get credited the same amount that you pay per kilowatt hour. Now, with some of the different utilities, it's about 75 to 80%, which isn't terrible considering that the utilities do maintain the lines and you are able to, you know, have power at night when there is no sun. All right, we can move on. Okay, so how solar works with grid outages. Now, this is one of the big bummers of solar. Because your system is able to push and pull power to and from the grid, your system is designed to always look for the grid. And so when the grid goes down, your system will automatically turn off. And it does that so that you don't accidentally send power into lines that are down that people may be working on. And so, you know, without a battery, you will lose power just like anyone else would lose power when the grid goes down. You know, and usually if you're in an area that doesn't have a lot of outages, you know, it's just fine. Some, you know, people more and more are getting batteries because they want to have power when the grid goes down. But think of a battery like a generator. A battery isn't going to pay for itself in savings, just like a generator wouldn't. It gives you a convenience of having power when there isn't the utility there for you. All right, let's move on. The different types of solar systems that there are the grid tied solar system. That's what I'm talking about. It's tied to the grid. So that lets you push and pull from the grid. Then there's grid tied with battery. As I mentioned, this is growing. This allows you to save some of your power, use it at night, use it in outages and things like that. And then there is off-grid. Off-grid is generally only used when there isn't access to the grid. You definitely, it's difficult, you know, in winter months and cloudy times to get enough power. So if you are off grid, you also have, you know, a backup generator that has, you know, another fuel option. But that's you know, mostly people are grid tied or grid tied with batteries. All right. So a solar battery, like I said, think of it like a generator. If you know, would consider a whole home generator and you're considering solar, then this is kind of your whole home generator. The nice thing is, you know, it gives you power when the grid is down. It's pretty seamless. I've spoken with some different Tesla owners, and they say that they know the power went out because they get a text message. Other than that, they wouldn't know. It also lets you use, you know, to save your power and use it at night if you like to, and reserve a certain amount for a grid outage. So you can actually kind of use more of your own power. The cons are that it does add cost to your system, you know, and its guaranteed lifespan is 25 years, whereas the solar is a 25+ year asset. It's guaranteed for output through 25 years, but it can last longer than that, obviously. All right, let's move to the next one. So how solar works with a battery is that when the grid goes down, the inverter will then, instead of accidentally sending any power out to the grid, it can send it to both the house for loads that currently need power or to the battery. And so you can still you sort of create a little microgrid in your home. So you can still have power without any safety concerns for utility workers. All right, next one. Okay, so one thing really to consider about solar is your roof good for solar? So we'll look at three things. We'll look at shading, we'll look at the orientation or the direction that your roof faces, and we'll look at the configuration of your roof. All right, let's move to the next one. So shading. So this is one of the tools that Louisville Metro will use when they do the pre-screening of your roof. This is Google's Project Sunroof. and it will show you the solar radiation or the solar access that your roof has throughout the year. And so it's a great it's a great tool. It's not perfect because it can use some imagery that is older. So for instance, if a tree had been removed recently, it may still show the tree there. But over here on the left, we see the ideal roof. So, you can clearly see that it is bright yellow on the southern side. So it's getting lots of sun. There's nothing around it that's going to shade it. It's perfect. The one in the middle is very good. You can see that the main roof gets gets more sun. So you would obviously cheat, toward that roof, but the other roof gets some good sun. So depending on what that house needs, you may opt to put a few panels on that if you wanted to get a few more. They won't put out as much as the one on the main roof, but depending on, the goals, it can work. Now, the one on the right is, I'm sure, a beautiful home, and it gets wonderful shade throughout the year, which probably keeps it cooler, and it probably uses less energy, but solar is not a good option for it. If your roof is a roof like that, then you can look for other ways, to reduce energy usage and, work on like energy efficiency and things like that. But it's just not, any panels on there aren't going to make enough power to justify the investment. All right, let's move to the next one. Okay, so roof configuration. The panels need to be laid on the roof. And so the way the roof is configured can also determine whether or not it's a good roof for panels and how many panels you can put on it. So again, on the left, we've got the perfect one. It's just a perfect square, flat, easy to put panels on. The middle one does have that dormer that bumps out on the front, but you can still put a good amount of panels on it. You just are going to cheat a little bit to the left, and sort of take into account any shading from that dormer. The one on the right, it's going to be very difficult to put panels on that. There's so many different sections. The sections are small. Panels, aren't going to fit, particularly well on that one. And so that may not be a good roof for solar. All right, let's move on. Orientation. So south is perfect. South is the ideal. And so you can see on the left, we've got the south facing roof. It's great. Now, east and west are good. You're going to get a lot of sun. You're only going to maybe put out 10, 12, maybe 15% less, depending on, how it exactly faces. But east and west are very good. Will definitely pay back. And then obviously roofs don't always, point perfectly north, south, or east, west. So in a situation on the right, we would just look at the roofs that would get the most, sunlight throughout the year. All right. And then, so one thing to consider, if the roof isn't great for solar, but you do have, some land, the nice thing about a ground mounted system is that it can be, positioned exactly south. It's going to be, put where there isn't anything that's going to shade it. You can really sort of put it in the perfect place. So if you do have land and the roof isn't great, that's one option. On the smaller side, you are building a structure to put the solar on. So there is extra cost. As the systems get larger, sometimes the savings in labor means that they might cost a little bit less than a very large roof mounted system. But, for the most part, it is a great option if the roof doesn't work. All right, let's move on. So, some benefits of solar power, and Sumeda sort of touched on these, the energy savings over the lifetime of the system. Systems will pay for themselves, within sort of 8 to 12 years, depending on the size of the system. Rate security. So basically, once you've purchased the system, all the power that comes from it, you're never going to raise prices on yourself, right? So you've paid for that block of power. Energy security, if you do couple it with a battery, then you don't need to worry about, outages and things like that. And again, the home value increase, and of course, better for the environment. All right. Just want to cover a few things that will add some cost. So if a roof is particularly steep, a 712 pitch or higher, it's difficult. It's not good for us to walk on it because you'll damage the roof. So it creates more labor. We have to put, different things in place so that we can get onto the roof, safely. It takes more time to get stuff off just because of the steep thing. So that will add some cost. If you have to split the solar, beyond like 2 different roof surfaces, there's more conduit that's run. It, has some cost. Sometimes we can remove a vent and relocate it. If Wi-Fi isn't present and we can't hardwire into the router for the monitoring, you can do that through a cell card because each system, you're able to monitor it through the internet so you can see everything that it's producing. On ground mounted systems, if we have to drill into concrete, if the elevation, is particularly, there's a big change east to west, or if there's, a lot of trenching, that can add cost as well. But all of these, someone would go over with you. All right, let's move on. So you'll get a proposal, from us that will cover all the materials. We'll kind of show you where the solar will be located, and we'll cover, things like payback and stuff like that. And then here's some just ballpark pricing and sizing. So a home that uses, the average home in the US uses about 10,800 kilowatt hours in a year. So, a smaller home or a more efficient home, maybe on the smaller side, this 6.12 kW. And after, the tax credit, could be in that sort of $15,000 range. The tax credit right now is 26%. It may change to 30%, but it depends on whether a particular bill passes the House. And then, the more average house in the middle, you'd be looking at sort of an 8 kW system. And it would be, and then we've also got, a lot of different loan options. So this kind of gives you kind of the range of what the payments might be, over 20 years. You can also do shorter and longer sort of terms. And then these are post tax credit, but this is the 26 tax credit. So it may be even better than this. And then, a larger home or, a home that just has more energy usage. If you've got large energy users like a hot tub or things like that, might be more after the tax credit of the $22,000 range, just to kind of give everyone some ballpark figures. All right, let's move on. All right, so the steps to solar power, education. The thing about solar, when you make a large purchase in your life, like your first car or your first home, lots of people who've done that before, and you can ask them about that. Solar isn't that way. You really don't probably know any or many people who've gone solar. And so kind of doing that homework is important. And so it's great to have, Louisville Metro kind of helping out and doing some of that vetting process, for Louisville and the surrounding areas. Look at your roof, see if it looks good for solar, look at the energy bill, understand how much energy your home uses. Most bills will show an average kWh, kilowatt hours. And then from us, you'll get a remote quote. So we'll do a quote for you before we even come out to the house, just so that, you can kind of see what it might cost. And then we would set up a site visit where we come out and kind of verify all the things. We take roof measurements, we take shade readings. We have a tool where we can get, our proposal tool uses LiDAR, so we can get really good shade readings remotely, but we'd still like to double check them. So far we found that it's been pretty spot on, but we've been doing this for a while and we still like to be sure. So those are your steps to solar. So, you've got step 1 done. All right. And questions? Let's see. Do you want me to read through the questions or, oh, I'm sorry, I completely forgot. We had that in there. I'm sorry. We do have someone else who's going to talk with you right now. I completely forgot because that question slide came up. All right. And now Vicki.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vicki France. I am a early adopter under the Solar Over Louisville program. I had thought for a number of years that I had a pretty good situation for solar. I had a pretty good run of south-facing roof, but I kind of pushed it to the back of my mind because I always was stopped by not quite knowing how to evaluate the different providers, not sure what questions to ask. So when I heard about Solar Over Louisville on the evening news, I thought, okay, that's the nudge I need. They've already pre-vetted the provider, and that's the part I was dreading the most. So no more excuses. If you're going to do it, let's do it now. I did sign up just as you did, sat through an earlier version of the same program, and decided I was going to go for it. I met with Solar Energy Solutions, and we started going through what was really, for me, part of the education process. I was very impressed that they did walk the roof. Literally found what layout would work best for my situation. When I got the proposal, there were several alternative layouts that would provide different percentages of energy usage for my particular situation. For me, I'm a relatively low energy user to begin with, but the configuration that we finally settled on provides about 90% of my usage. So I was very, very pleased with that. And as I've only gotten one bill since the installation was completed, but they're pretty much right on the money. So I was really happy with that. And taking into account that it was a very hot, humid June, I was absolutely thrilled. During the education and evaluation portion, I did find that I had several preconceptions that turned out not quite to be the case. I was one of the ones who thought that I would be covered without a battery in the event of a power outage, and they were very kind and patient in adjusting my expectations, and that was a good thing. Another thing that I really appreciated was that there was never an attempt to upsell me. I felt like we were genuinely getting to a system that would really fit my unique needs, and I think that we were successful in that. In terms of the installation, the installers did my system during the really brutal heat when it was between 95 and 100 degrees, and they were working on the roof. They always showed up when they said they would be here, worked under some pretty tough circumstances. The system actually looked better than I expected it to. Nobody's going to call a solar system a thing of beauty, but I think it really turned out to be much sleeker than I expected. I have had a number of neighbors stop by and talk about the system, so you will be your own advertisement as well. The inspector from the city of Louisville, who did come out after the installation, was very complimentary of Solar Energy Solutions, and we did talk briefly about some of the other providers, and he was quite knowledgeable about who to get and not to get, but Solar Energy Solutions was one of the ones he mentioned very favorably, and there was no problem whatsoever with the system passing the inspection. I'm not quite certain what I expected. When I went live, I was waiting for fireworks or something, but I would say that the only time you're really aware of your system is when the LG&E bill comes, and it's a much more pleasant situation than you expect. Um, I would say in addition that I did have a couple of follow-up questions, and Solar Energy Solutions was very, very good in getting back to me and responding to my questions quickly.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, Vicky. We're so glad that you had a good experience, and we're really happy that you were able to share that with everyone. I think we can get into the Q&A section now. So I will stop sharing my screen, and I can start going through the questions that are in the chat, and then we can take them. And I see that Steve Ricketts has answered some questions. So thank you for that, Steve. The first question is from Matthew. He says, do you need to have an electrical assessment along with a solar assessment? For example, your house's wiring, panel, large appliances, to ensure it is compatible with the solar equipment?
So yeah, we will definitely look at the solar panel to make sure that there's room. So, when we do the remote quote, we'll put together what we think is the best system. But if we come out and find that there needs to be like an electrical upgrade or things like that, then, we would discuss that. Our salespeople will come out, they'll take a look at all the wiring, take a look at, all the different loads, and just make sure that everything's good to go.
Perfect. Matthew also asked, for solar backup battery, what are the supported vendors and recommended battery replacement intervals?
So we are a Tesla Powerwall certified installer. We've done a lot, of kind of looking around and looking at some of the different options that are out there, and we feel that the Tesla Powerwall is the best at this point. Batteries now are just much better than they used to be. Like, even like 5 or 6 years ago, you were talking about what we would call kind of a more classic battery, a sealed battery, and those were really not designed to be used like the Powerwall and batteries like the Powerwall. It was designed strictly as a backup, and the more it was used, the faster they would degrade, and they still were very expensive. And warranties were 12 months, maybe 18 months. Now with the Tesla Powerwall and that style of battery, it's designed to be used. Like, it's got a 10-year warranty, with 10,000 plus cycles. So you can use it, you can cycle it every day, for 10 years and then some. It's just a much different animal. And the 10-year warranty, is much better. So the newer batteries are, definitely better than the sort of classic batteries. We like the Tesla. There are other ones out there, but in our evaluation, we like the Tesla.
The next question is from Marla. She says, by accepting the proposal, are we obligated to complete the purchase? If not, what are the next steps?
So if you get the remote quote, which will be, online, it will come to you in an email, and you want someone to come out and take a look, that's great. You can set up the site visit, and then if you felt like you were ready to move forward, that's when you would sign the contract. But no, the remote quote does not obligate you to anything. If you just want to find out what it might cost and what it might cover for you, that's great. It might be something you can do this year, or, it may be something that you can do in a couple of years, but you can't really plan for it until you know. So, you're not obligated by the remote quote.
I'll also add that the sign-up process also, absolutely no obligation. It's just an indication that you want to explore solar. So just to walk you through the whole process, you'll sign up using that link that I put in the chat, and then that'll give us initial information to do that pre-screening. If your home is a good fit for solar, we pass your address on to Solar Energy Solutions. And if it's not a good fit, then we respond to you and we say, hey, it looks like it's not a great fit. If there's something that's changed on site, like a tree came down or something like that, let us know and we can still give it a second look. And and then as Julie said, once it gets to SES, then they provide that first remote quote. if you're happy with how that looks and you want to proceed further, then they get with you to do an on-site visit and then give you a finalized proposal that you can accept or sign a contract if you like, or you can choose not to. But this is no obligation in this process.
Mhm.
The next question is, I already sent in my utility bill. When will I hear back? I think there's a couple of questions like this, and I will just respond. We thank you for your patience. We are very happy with the success of this program, but it means that we've had about, I think, 1,400 people as of today that have signed up. It's certainly more than we were expecting. We've had 64 contracts signed, which, as a comparison, Lexington did this campaign and they had, I think, 15 contracts signed total through their campaign. So we're happy to be leading, but it does mean that there might be a slight delay in response time. But for the most part, I think we have been getting back to people on time. Occasionally, we've heard that it's been hard to get in touch, but I will take your names down. We will make sure to follow up. But thanks for letting us know, and we will check and make sure that you're signed up. And if not, we will let you know so you can do that.
And I can put my email in the chat as well. You can check in with me. I will say we did get a lot of people at the end, getting close to the deadline. So we've been uploading a lot of people. We've got, as many people as we can working on it. It may take a few days here at the end for us to get through, but I'll put my email in there. And if you just feel like you just want to make sure, I can easily go in and just make sure and just ping, whoever is assigned to you and just say, hey, so-and-so hasn't heard yet. So just, but yes, it can take a few days after you've gotten your welcome letter from SCS for someone to reach out. But we're excited to do it. So.
Caleb asks, can you talk a little bit more about how financing works?
So financing, we've got our financing partner is Sunlight Financial. So there's a number of things you can choose for financing. So if you have equity in your home, and you could get like a second mortgage or a home equity line of credit through your own bank, and that's a great way to go. They have a relationship with you, but if you've already used maybe your home equity line to redo your kitchen and you still want to go forward with solar, we do offer third-party financing. So Sunlight Financial, they have a product. We have many different sort of terms that you can choose from 5 years to even 30 years. And the way it works is they come up with your initial payment, assuming that you will, by 18 months, apply your tax credit, the 26 or hopefully 30% tax credit to the loan. And that would keep your payment exactly the same. Now, if you got a really large tax credit for some other reason, you got other things you want to put more into the loan, you could do that and it would lower, your rate. You can also up to 3 times add, 1,000 plus to the loan and it will re-amortize without any fees. Now, if for some reason when you get your tax credit, there was a big expense or something you needed, to do, and you didn't want to put that whole tax credit into Sunlight Financial, it would just re-amortize and your payment would go up for the remainder of the loan. But again, you would still have 3 more times to re-amortize the loan if you wanted to. So it's a pretty good product. I think going, with your own bank is, maybe something that a lot of people want to do. It's you already have a relationship with them. But, if third-party financing is something you want, Sunlight is a good way to go. And the consultant that talks with you can give you some different options, depending on what you might want your payment to be, so longer options will get you a lower payment.
Jason asks, I would like information on a roof mount system with battery backup and also information on our solar field system, approximately 20 acres of land available. I think that's like a ground mount system that he's looking into as an option.
Yeah, so a ground mount is a great option if you've got, lots of land. There is, like I said, if it's a smaller system, you are building, a structure to put the solar on. So that does add cost. But if it's a larger system, there's a lot less labor to putting panels on something on the ground as opposed to going up and down a ladder. So definitely, if you're looking kind of at whether you want to put it on the house or, do like a ground mount, talk with your consultant about, those options, and they can create 2 different options within the proposal that you can sort of toggle between to see what might work best for you.
If I can chip in on the second part of that question, you mentioned you have 20 acres of land available. You're really talking about a utility system there, which is a very different conversation. If you are thinking of a large system that's going to produce more than you use in an effort to sell it back to the utility very much have the whip hand in that situation. They have to take the energy you produce from a very large array, but they set the price and they will pay you back probably about 25 or even less % of what the energy costs to purchase. So unless you've got a very unique situation, private small scale utility, even for 20 acres, is not something that makes economic sense whatsoever. You've got to have hundreds or even thousands of acres for it to start to make economic sense.
Yes, sorry, I didn't understand. Maybe I misunderstood. The question, but absolutely, the utilities will let you cover your usage. But beyond, like if you were to like supersize your system, they could then look at you and say, well, you're not a net user, you're a net, generator, and they can pay you wholesale like they would any other net generator. So anyway.
Yes. I think that relates to another question somebody asked about, could I design a bigger system and in anticipation of using more energy later on? And the answer is yes. It's fairly common, for instance, if you're going to build on the house, get an EV, you can put a larger system in place in anticipation of a more heavy usage later on. But if you're designing a system that's 100 times bigger than your home uses, the utility might notice that.
Yeah, I had a customer like that, and we just noted all the different loads that would be added. So if you're going to add an electric car, you can put that, we can submit that in the net metering contract or a net metering interconnection agreement. All right.
Great, thank you. Marla's question is about the proposal not showing any finance options. And I think Julie covered that we do have finance options. So maybe you can reach back out to the person who you're in communication with on the proposal, and they should be able to talk you through those processes.
Yeah, and feel free, to reach out to me if you want, and I'll just, ping them. But yeah, if you respond back that you were looking for options, then they can put them in very quickly.
All right, Debbie asked, does LG&E still buy back any unused solar energy that you generate? I was told that the program ended 2 months ago.
So net metering, the value changed. Instead of the 1-to-1 ratio where any extra power that you sent out, you would get full value for. Now you get 75 to 80%. I'm not exactly sure what LG&E's is, but that value has changed. There is still net metering.
Unless you're in Indiana.
Yes,
in Kentucky. Yeah.
Yes, I was thinking LG&E was just in Louisville. Sorry, but yes, in the Indiana side, unfortunately, Indiana has starting in July, they no longer have net metering, and so what you would get is that wholesale plus 25%. So I believe it's somewhere between like 4 to 5 cents a watt, and it's a number that can change all the time. But that, if you're paying 15 cents a watt, or 10 to 15%, you're only getting that 45 cents back. So I'm sorry, 10 to 15 cents per watt. Yes,
all right.
Sorry, Indiana, things are not as good.
But certainly you will find that the people who are engineering your quotes are very conscious of not overproducing. The aim here is not to give you the biggest system possible. It's the most economic system possible. So if you are designing a system that exports a substantial proportion of production, at a low kind of income to you, your consultant would very clearly highlight that to you and say, this is not a good option for you. You need to do something a bit smaller.
Yeah, if you can minimize what's going back, and the program that we use can kind of look at that all through the year.
All right, so I know we have about 8 minutes left, and I want to be mindful of people's times, and we do have a lot of questions, which is great. So I ask that we try to do a lightning round and try to get through these quickly. And if there's any follow-up questions, then we would be happy to take that by email, to do a call with you later. One quick question. I'm already on the budget plan with LG&E. How will that change, or will it?
I am not. So is that like equal billing?
I can answer that if you.
Good.
I mean, that's if you're talking about the set amount standard monthly billing, you would tend to come off that if you have solar. I actually had a customer who had solar and then complained that their bill hadn't changed at all. That's because they were still on the net meter, the monthly billing program, and they agreed to pay the same $75 every month. So if you're on the budget program, you cancel the budget program when you get solar. Otherwise, you will pay the same amount every month.
That's not good.
Matthew asks, is there a need for an electrical upgrade to your home? Does your company offer those services? If there's a need.
So depending on your electric panel, sometimes you do need to upgrade your service or your electric panel. And we do provide that. Your consultant would probably identify that during a site visit and be able to sort of get that information back to you and price and all that kind of stuff.
All right. Ted says, LG&E said my usage didn't really warrant solar.
Okay. And, if you don't use a lot of power, it might not, but, a consultant can take a look at it and let you know. They can just see what you're using. I did have a customer once who just used so little. I can't even think, but it was just, I was just amazed at how much she did end up getting a little bit of solar. But yes, the smaller systems are a little more per watt just because there's some of the same labor involved with putting in an inverter, the same labor involved with getting set up, with getting the truck there, with getting the truck loaded. So it's just hard to tell until you get the remote quote. But the nice thing is, you can get that. There's no obligation, and then, you'll know.
Great. Caleb asks, is there a charge for an on-site quote?
No.
Easy. Easy answer.
Yes.
John says, does SES repair any damage from storms, etc., to the solar panels?
So you are going to want to let your insurance company know that you have a system. I have a system, my insurance company knows. I didn't notice any increase, but your own insurance company can kind of let you know if you give them the information. And then, so if there's storm damage, it would be covered by your policy. It would kind of, what is covered would be determined by your policy. We do service, we offer, workmanship warranty. And then we do also, service, repair service and things like that. So if something were to happen, it would be covered, by the insurance, and we would definitely be able to service that. We do, service.
Great. David says, is there a deadline to accept the proposal and sign the contract? So yes, we do. Our enrollment deadline, as we talked about, is this Sunday, and then the contract signing deadline is September 30th. So you should have plenty of time between the time that you sign up, receive your proposal, to consider it, and then sign the contract. Debbie says, can you also purchase more panels that your current documented LG&E usage in anticipation of being less conservative with energy consumption? I'm currently very frugal with energy use, but expect to use more when I'm able to generate my own solar energy.
Yes, the woman I was talking about before was very, very frugal. I mean, just great. But she said, well, if I had solar power, I might turn the heater on in the kitchen more in the winter when I was reading, so, you can kind of oversize a little. And, we can document that in the interconnection agreement, so just talk with your consultant and they'll be able to help you with that.
Great. I got another question about whether the initial proposal includes battery or is that at an extra charge? So
The battery, the battery is definitely extra. We can give you two options if you want to see it, just a solar, system and a system with battery, or, if you're not interested in the battery, just let your consultant know you're not interested and you won't get that option. Or if you do happen to get it and you didn't ask for it, because they are working on a lot of remote quotes, just ping them back and say, can I see it without the battery? And they can make that change pretty easily.
Yeah, but it sounds like the receiving the quote, it's not an extra
Oh,
charge.
yeah.
The battery. So,
No, they can, we can add it or not,
Perfect.
or both.
Looks like we're at the last question. How long does net metering banked energy last? Like if I oversize my system, then buy an electric vehicle in 1, 2, or 6 years, etc., will all of my excess energy still be there when my usage goes up?
How many years? So you will get a credit on your bill, but I'm not sure. And Steve, you might know, I'm more familiar with synergy.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yes.
unfortunately, this is where the answer is it depends on your utility. If you are outside of LG and EKU and one of the utilities that still does one-to-one net metering, your extra credits will build up like phone minutes, and they typically go to infinity. They keep on building one way or another, and they roll over year to year to year. If you're an LG and EKU, they've managed to get judgments through the Public Service Commission that stop that happening. So the systems that are designed in LG EKU territory do not build up with time. They're effectively cashed out on a regular basis, and the system designs have to be slightly different to recognize that. So it really depends exactly which kind of county you're in. And this campaign covers 15 counties.
Thank you. One more question. What is the average cost of the battery?
So a single battery is just over 16,000. And I believe that is a partial backup. It does have a 10-year warranty. It is designed to be used all the time. When you move up to, if you wanted whole home backup, then that would be 2+, and the price goes down per, I believe that when you have 2, it's about 27. But I'm not sure that I know the ones above that. But so the first one is 16,000, and then the price gets a little bit better as you move up per battery. It's a big ticket item, but again, it's, you need to think of it more like a generator. If it's something that you would consider getting, then a battery is a good way to go, because the fuel for it is free, and a whole home generator is going to use natural gas or propane. So anyway, well, it's free once you have solar.
And I can't help but not mention that if things go as one would hope they go in Washington, tomorrow the tax credit that applies to all of this, goes up from 26% to 30% retrospectively.
Yeah, would be retroactive for this year.
Yeah.
It applies to batteries as well. And the 26%, if it doesn't, we still have the 26%, this year, and that also applies to batteries that are charged by solar. All right,
great. Looks like we're right at time and no more questions. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you especially to Vicki for also being here and sharing your experience with your project. I see there's some more questions coming in, but I think, people are dropping off. We'd be happy to follow up with you, Caleb, on that question. So we'll get back to you with that. All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.